You guys, I am so excited for year two, second annual podcast episode, which will be my summary year of 2025. If you listened last year, I had this idea of, well, as you know, I choose a word of the year at the beginning of every year. I've done it for decades. I love it so much. And last year, I had this idea on December 31st of why don't I come up with a summary word at the end of the year and then go back and look at what my word of the year was at the beginning of the year and that intention that I set for myself and see how we net it out. And it was such a fun idea last year, and I really, really loved it. So I am back again, you guys, a little bit in reverse because I announced my word of the year in the last episode. And now I'm going to talk about my summary word of 2025. So I definitely flipped it, but who cares? It's just what we do here. And I'm so wildly unbothered by it, which, spoiler alert, is my 2026 word of my year. But I am really excited about sharing my summary word with you guys because it's a good one. Let's talk about it. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the Next 23. In keeping with who I am, I'm doing things a little bit backwards here. But today I'm bringing you my summary word of the year for 2025. And I've been thinking about it for the past week or so. And I came up with it pretty quickly. And I think it's a really, really good one. And when I came up with it, I realized I could not remember what my word of the year was for 2025. I kid you not, you guys, I racked my brain. So I pulled up my newsletter from January 1st of last year, and I was so excited to read what my word of the year was because my summary word of the year is so in line with what my word of the year was. And I'm going to explain it all. So here we go. So my summary word for 2025, which is actually two words, is hard conversations. And I realized that I want that to be my summary word or phrase of 2025 because I had so many hard conversations last year. Not saying I don't have them every year, but for some wild reason, it really feels like a lot of the conversations I had were exceptionally hard. Now, when I say hard conversations, I don't mean fights or arguments or really bad things because, in my view, hard conversations are really, really good. They're a great thing. I love having hard conversations. And I think that having a hard conversation, being willing to do that, being willing to be brave and be vulnerable and sit down with people that you love and say, hey, we got to talk about some shit. We need to talk about some things that are going on or some things that happened. And I want to share my feelings with you about it. And it's going to be hard. And it may not be fun, probably won't be fun, but it's necessary. And I think we're going to come out on the other side of it so much better. So that is always my intention when I have a hard conversation with someone. It is never to get them to change their mind. It is never my intention to shame someone or to make someone feel bad about something they've done. It is never my intention to start a fight or to, get into it with anyone. It is always my intention when I have a hard conversation with someone to share my feelings and to share the truth and to be honest and to really just talk about where I'm coming from and to then really listen to what the other person has to say and what their feelings are and where they're coming from. And you guys, I will say, while I had a lot of hard conversations this year or in 2025, there were some of the best, most beautiful conversations that I've probably almost ever had in my life. And I love that. I love that I was able to do that. So when I realized this was my summary word slash phrase of 2025, I was like, what the hell was my word of the year? What was the intent? What was my intention that I set back on January 1st of 2025? So when I pulled up my newsletter where I announced it and I read it, you guys, I'm not kidding. I got so happy because my word of the year for 2025 at the beginning of the year was ballsy. Lord, it is ballsy to have hard conversations. So I am so ridiculously proud of myself because all of these hard conversations that I had prove that I leaned heavily into the intention that I set for my year to walk into it and show up brave and ballsy. And I'm so fucking proud of myself. I'm so proud that I did that. And like, it's so great. It's fantastic. And I went back and listened to my summary word of the year from 2024 and my word of the year, my intention word of the year in the beginning of that year. And even that year, my word of the year that I set January 1st of 2024 was fuck yes. That was the energy I wanted to bring into that year. The end of the year, I summarized it with razzle fucking dazzle. And you guys, like, those two were so great. So now I have 2 solid years, which I'm no statistician, but I feel like that's some seriously good proof points that if you set an intention in the beginning of the year and you focus on it and you think about it, even if you forget about it and forget what it is, the actual word, because clearly I did in 2025, but I obviously did not forget my intention. I didn't forget the thing that I wanted to show up as in 2025. I didn't forget the way I wanted to show up in 2024 because both of my summary words of the year are so solidly in line with my intention word in the beginning. This to me just, not that I didn't believe it because I solidly believed it to my core, but this just proves it even more to me that if you set an intention for yourself, for the way you want to walk out the door every day and show up in the world, the way you want to have interactions with people around you, the way you want to encounter your life and experience your life, if you set that intention and you really think about it and focus on it and try hard to match it, it's going to happen. And I am 2 years proof of that. Seriously. I walked into 2024 with fuck yes energy, and that year just exploded with amazing, fun, exciting adventures, incredible experiences, ridiculously cool people I met, doors opening, conversations being had, falling in love, like all the things. And so my summary for that year being razzle fucking dazzle, yeah, it was a razzle dazzle year, you guys. And for 2025, I wanted to walk into this year ballsy and brave and not afraid to show up as myself, not afraid to be exactly who I have become with my people, with my community, with strangers, with my work, with content I put out there, with conversations I have. And you guys, 2025, challenging year to say the very least, an emotional year, a very, very hard year across the board. So it was tough. And some of those hard conversations that I had were absolutely not fun and were probably conversations that had been building and ones that I needed to have for several years, but just was too scared to, or didn't have the words, or was worried it was, gonna blow up some relationships. And because I set my intention for last year and I wanted to be authentic, I wanted to be real, but on top of all that, I wanted to be brave and I wanted to be ballsy. And so it was the year to to have those conversations. I was having lunch with one of my best friends the other day, and we were talking about relationships. And I am just about 2 years into this relationship with the copywriter, with the boyfriend, and it's amazing, and he's wonderful. And I was asking her if I should be concerned or worried because the boyfriend and I have never had a fight or an argument. And I don't know why I started to get in my head about, okay, it's been 2 years and we've never had a fight or an argument, and that feels like a red flag. But is it a red flag? Because not fighting feels really good, and I hate fighting. Some people really like that energy of the argument and the fight, and it's sort of a good thing. It fires up that passion in a relationship, I guess. That is not me. I absolutely hate to fight with people about anything. I hate it so much. But I started to think, is it a bad thing that the boyfriend and I have never in 2 years had a single fight? So I do what I always do, and I go to my best friends and I pose the question and I ask, am I right in this, that I should be concerned? Do I need to pick a fight? Do we need to have a fight to prove that we're in a really good, solid, strong relationship? Because do I need to be worried about this? And she looked me dead in the eye and she said, Kellie, you do not need to worry about this because you have never put yourself in a situation where you needed to have a fight with him, because if something comes up, and it has, you always have the hard conversation before you let it linger to the point where you start to feel resentment, where you start to feel anger, where you start to feel those pangs of frustration. You sit him down and you have the conversation. And the boyfriend is the type of person that when we do have these hard conversations, or when I bring up something, he listens. And his first reaction is not to get defensive. His first reaction is to talk to me about it and to explain what it was I was seeing, if it was something he did or misinterpreting, or why he was doing something he was doing. And I realized as she was saying this, that for us, this is the way we communicate, and we communicate really, really well with each other, in that both of us are really comfortable having hard conversations with each other, and we're very comfortable listening to each other and not getting defensive and not putting walls up. And I think the reason we're so comfortable with that is because we both, post-divorce, spent several years figuring out who we were and loving who we became and were becoming. And so by the time we started dating, on our very first date, we showed up exactly as ourselves. And knowing that if the person across the table, or next to us at the bar in our case, didn't like something about us that we were bringing on our first date, that we were how we were showing up as our true real selves, it was totally fine. We were okay with this other person not liking who we are because we just met them. So it was no big deal if we had to walk away. Now, the good news in our case is we did like each other on that first date, so it led to a second, and it led to a third. And very early on, we showed up as our true, genuine selves with each other, and we kept doing that. And because of that, and because we genuinely were liking each other, we were genuinely interested in each other, and we were having hard conversations when hard things happened in our lives, that it kind of made it blossom. That feels like a weird word for me to say. I don't think I've ever used that word in my life. It made our relationship grow in such a beautiful and natural way that we didn't have this tension of holding things in, feeling resentment, letting that resentment fly out of our mouths with anger or disdain that then would bounce off each other and bring up defensiveness and bring up walls, which I think is the natural cadence of people who argue and fight, and people who are not willing to have hard conversations with each other, are not brave or ballsy enough to do that, or to allow their partner to start that hard conversation and give that safe space for that hard conversation to live and to be had. And so I'm actually super proud of us as a couple for building this relationship the way we have. I'm super proud of me for honoring my intention for 2025 and for being brave enough to talk to people I love in a very kind and gentle and loving way. I think I can't remember if it was a podcast or a newsletter that I put out there, but last year I did talk about how it is kind to tell the truth. I heard that somewhere, that telling the truth to someone is actually the kind thing to do. It is unkind to lie to someone to save their feelings, or to ignore something just to save their feelings so that this person wouldn't be upset or hurt or offended or embarrassed. The kind thing is always to tell the truth. Now, telling the truth is, there's nuances to it, because you have to be in a mindset for yourself to tell the truth in a gentle way. You have to make sure that the person you're talking to is in a headspace and a heart space where they're willing and able to hear the truth. And it's such a hard thing to do, but you guys, it's such a good thing and a freeing thing and a kind thing to do, to tell the people you love the truth about how you're feeling about a situation, about something that they're doing is how it's affecting you or people around you. And I think that is part of what drove me to have many of the hard conversations that I had this year. And I'm very glad that I did. I really am. Like, honestly, so glad that I am. So, that being said, we are now fully into year 3 of this setting my word of the year in the beginning of the year. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, my 2026 word of the year is wildly unbothered. Boy, you better believe my summary word of 2026, it really, really better be like something that confirms and holds up my wildly unbothered intention for this year. I'm not going to lie. Boyfriend came over last night. We were making dinner. I was wildly bothered. I was not my best self. I was not wildly unbothered, but that's okay, because I needed to get out what I was bothered about, which was a lot of things that are going on right now in our country. I needed to talk about it. He was so patient. He let me talk about it. He engaged in the conversation with me. We spent about 30, 45 minutes being wildly bothered together about the state of our country. And then he was like, all right, let's go turn on a movie and let's just relax and chill, and let's get back to being wildly unbothered tonight. And I love him so much for that, because that, my friends, is what wildly unbothered means. It doesn't mean I'm going to ignore the things that fire me up. It doesn't mean I'm going to not get passionate or completely pissed off about things happening around me, but it means that I'm not going to stay in that state for as long as I did last year. I'm not going to stay in it forever so that I miss the beautiful things around me. If I had stayed in my wildly bothered state last night and kept going on and on about the things I had read in the news and things I had seen on my social media, and stayed in that for hours and hours, I would have missed such a beautiful, lovely night with the boyfriend. And I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I didn't. So we are 3 weeks in to 2026, and I am proud to say I am solidly staying and sticking to my wildly unbothered intention. I hope you guys are loving this new thing of a summary word of the year. I would love to hear what some of yours are. I'd love to hear how they match up with your beginning word of the year and see if my statistics are holding true, that putting your intention out into the world actually allows you to show up in the world as you want. I love you guys, and I'm cheering for you. The Next 23 is produced in partnership with Taylor Street Designs. I would love it if you guys could subscribe to the show. Don't worry, if it's not your jam, just tap that unsubscribe button. No hard feelings. Love you guys.